virtual showcase for a while. I love conscious business, but there's been a CEO that I've been following for a long time. And I kind of outed myself when we first talked and said, gosh, your company is just one of those companies that I just really believe in what you're doing. And I heard him speak at a conscious capitalism event, and you know how when you have those moments where your head and your heart just get in sync with what somebody is saying, and that's really the way that I felt. So I'm delighted to have him on this virtual showcase. Before I introduce him in this particular topic, I just want to tell you a little bit about what we're trying to create. I really have had this belief that when we grow our business and simultaneously grow our impact, that is how we make the world better. And I believe that if your business isn't growing, your impact isn't growing. And a lot of times we can get focused on the impact, but not necessarily the business, and vice versa. And I just believe that the two of those together is really the key. The other thing that we're really trying to create here through some collaborations is this idea that when we focus on growth and impact, and the two of those together, and then when we put that type of impact with stakeholder capitalism principles, which we'll be talking about today, and you really put that together with this puzzle piece, that ultimately we're really showcasing a better way to do business. And that is truly what I believe, that growth plus impact plus stakeholder capitalism is a better way to do business. And you need all of that coming together. So we're in the process through some collaboration of creating a series of gather and grow events. They will focus on stakeholder capitalism. They're going to focus on B Corp certification, climate solutions, business growth. And our theory is that if we can get together and focus on these four things and collaborate, and most importantly, invite a whole lot of people into this arena that they're not aware of B Corp certification, they're not aware of conscious capitalism, they're not aware of stakeholder capitalism, that we can introduce them to this really better way to do business. So that's what we're up to through a collaboration with SHIFCO, Conscious Capitalism, Be Local Texas, Conscious Leaders. Now WPO is signed on to be part of the partnership as well. And that's where we're headed, and look forward to you guys joining us. The other thing I'm also happy to share, if you're not aware of it, is all of the proceeds from these events are going to go to an organization called NIFTY, the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. In particular, all of the proceeds will benefit something called the Youth Entrepreneurship Challenge. And what that is, they also have a World Series of Innovation where young students, middle school, high school, and post-high school and GED compete on business ideas that make the world better. SHIFCO is a strategic partner for them. We give scholarships to the winners of those championships, and we help them commercialize those ideas, which is one of the coolest things ever. I personally help raise capital to help commercialize those ideas. So all of the proceeds from these events are going to fund the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, helping these students who've had a difficult life exit that, kind of leave behind some of those challenges and move forward to the space of entrepreneurship. So you'll hear more about that in the future, but it's an exciting sponsorship. Coming back to today, so Michael Walsh, like I said, I've been following him for a while. I heard him speak. I heard about his business. At the time that I heard about his business, I was working very closely in the senior care community. And what I noticed, this was about 6-7 years ago, what I noticed in the senior care community pre-COVID is the employees that worked in those organizations really were struggling with well-being, because the things that they were seeing every day or just very traumatic. If you've ever been in a senior care facility, it's challenging. And what I noticed, and was talking to the head of this organization that was trying to help the employees in this particular community, is that you need a systematic way to approach that. And that's really what Cariloop does, is they have a platform that helps companies help their employees when they become a caregiver. And when you become a caregiver, as somebody who's been living that space for the last 10 years, it is truly challenging. And to be able to equip companies to support caregivers on that journey is really what Cariloop is all about. So, Michael, I know you don't want to talk too much about your organization, and instead you want to talk about the wonderful world of stakeholder capitalism and B Corp certification. But I just want you to know I've been a fan of yours for a long time, and the work that you're doing is truly amazing. So, welcome to this virtual showcase.
Yeah, thanks, Terry. Yeah, and just to qualify that point you just made, I said, this hour, this is for you guys. Like, I'm here to just share kind of some perspectives and opinions on some things that I think we've done pretty well and some tough lessons we've learned along the way. And yeah, chat a bit about some of these concepts like stakeholder capitalism and some of the things that we're doing, and hopefully answer questions if anybody has them. I'm watching the chat. I love that we're already talking about people getting converted to either PBCs or becoming B Corp. So that's what I'm here to chat about. But yeah, Terry, you teed it up perfectly. I mean, and we'll talk about this in a minute. Like Cariloop becoming a public benefit corporation and a certified B Corp, this was already sort of ingrained in our DNA. Just we were, going out to the market and telling this story and spreading this message about, creating a new global standard for the way that we all just care for each other. And it was really a natural extension of who we already were to make these leaps to become a PBC and a B Corp. So eager to share the story, and certainly happy to answer any questions about the work we do at Cariloop and how we do it. But yeah, I'm here to teach. I'm here to support. So yeah, let's dive in.
Yeah, and that's again what I love you is you're a natural teacher and a natural giver. So let's talk first about the structure. You and I had shared this, that there is a legal structure called a public benefit corporation or a benefit corporation. It's a legal structure. SHIFCO chose that as our legal structure. It is not a nonprofit. It is meant to be for profit, but there's some teeth in that legal structure that I think is really important, and it's different than being a certified B Corp. So talk a little bit about the PBC, Public Benefit Corporation legal structure, and why you chose that. And then we'll shift over and talk about certification as well.
Yeah, so admittedly, everybody, like I conflated these two ideas when I first was learning about what they both were. This idea of being a PBC and a B Corp, like, and just to say it, like it's a public benefit corporation and a certified B, like you just put the B's together, you think it's all the same thing. Like it was my co-founder that had to like kind of set me straight on this and really kind of introduce these concepts and why these were so important. And at the same time, I was just starting to get involved in the conscious capitalism movement and getting more involved locally and nationally with that organization. So it was back in the beginning of the story is actually back in like 2018, 2019. At this point, we are a team of 15 people. Cariloop now has raised just about $25 million from investors. At this point, we had raised like our first couple of $1 million. We had maybe our first dozen or two clients, our first, I don't know, maybe 10,000 employee lives using the platform. So we were talking about these concepts and doing our research and discovered B Lab as the organization to do the certification process for B Corp. And as we went through the self-assessment, there's a really cool self-assessment on their website you can do just to sort of see where you're at and from a readiness standpoint, sort of evaluate yourself and where you need to go. As you learn about this process, you find out it can take like 18 to 36 months to get through it all, and which is a fantastic problem in the macro, because that means they're really busy going through this exercise with a lot of organizations. So we actually put together a roadmap for this, and we said, okay, well, if it's going to take us 18 months, 3 years to get through this, what can we start building into our foundations now so that we can really make sure that we're acting as a certified B Corp every step of the way? So by the time the auditors come look at us, like this is a slam dunk for them. So the first step to do this, and it actually turns out it's part of the evaluation process for B Corp, is to convert Cariloop from what was at the time a Delaware C Corporation to a Delaware Public Benefit Corporation. And I'll tell you, this isn't for everybody. Of course, there's an expense to do this. So whether you're a C Corp, an S Corp, an LLC, like this involves refiling your legal paperwork. This involves working with some attorneys to amend your articles of incorporation and your bylaws. If you have investors involved in your business, you have to go and get them to approve this move. So I spent, in the thick of the pandemic, the second half of 2020, almost like campaigning within my own stakeholder group, our shareholders, our employees and team, our partners, working with our legal counsel to think through how do we convert Cariloop to a public benefit corporation. And the goal was to do this by the beginning of 2021, at which point we would start the B Lab process. So we officially converted the company to a PBC Q1 of 21. I got unanimous approval for my shareholders and board to make this change. And I told Terry last week as we were preparing for this, that a lot of law firms will hear from their clients and from these businesses that people want to go do this. It almost feels at first, if you don't really have a good reason to do it, it can feel a little bit gimmicky. And our lawyers actually, when we went to them and told them why we wanted to do this and what we plan to do with it, and we'll get into how we operationalized all this in just a bit, our lawyers were like, this is the first time in a long time that this has actually made sense, like for an organization to do this, because of just what you do, who you are, what your mission, your vision is. Anything involving making the lives of people and society and communities better, you've got a really good argument to make a conversion here. So the only real work from there was to create what's called your statement of public benefit, which you end up weaving into your articles and bylaws. So we got that process through Delaware. We got our board and shareholders to sign off on it, and we converted the company. And then, so again, that's the legal foundational work now that we've done. And we started the B Corp process with B Lab in January, right after we got the approval for PBC. And we did not get the final okay from B Lab until August of 2022. So it took us 19 or 20 months to get through the process. So yeah, I'll pause there. I mean, that's there is a difference. They are very interconnected for sure, and they both represent sort of the spirit of stakeholder capitalism and ingraining it into your business, but they are two very different sets of methodologies and processes to go through. You might ask the question, like, why do both? And there's certainly folks that kind of choose one or the other. Again, we were already operating as both a PBC and a certified B Corp before we ever went down either of these paths. Like, it just made good sense to us to join both of these communities and to really serve as a beacon, a guiding light for other companies that want to come and follow either of these paths. So we have not looked back, and it's been a really great rallying call for all of our stakeholders to know that they're part of an organization that has both of these designations intact.
I love that. Before we talk about the certification, I just want to drill down a little bit on the PBC legal structure. So when you have shareholders in your business, and for a variety of reasons, either you do it from the beginning or you add shareholders later because you raise capital, there's a lot that goes into thinking through the bylaws to make sure that shareholders are protected, to make sure that the company is going to be run a certain way. But the thing that jumped out at me is that public benefit statement, that what the PBC structure gives you is it gives you the legal right to make that public benefit trump everything else. And we found that to be one of the best decisions we ever made in Shifco. We chose that structure. All of our initial investors 100% signed up and agreed. And then as we got a little bit later into the evolution of Shifco, our public benefit corporation statement and the teeth that the way that we measure that really trumped shareholder returns. It overrid. And we said, look, we need to invest in these things to achieve our benefits, that stated benefit and purpose. And if we pay out dividends, we're not going to achieve this. And across the board, every shareholder was in alignment. So what I find about the PBC structure that I like is it gets everybody on the same page from the initiation of those documents. And it sounds like, Michael, you experienced the same thing, because all of your shareholders, even though it was post and you had to go from a C Corp to a PBC, it really drove that alignment. Did you find that to be true?
I did. And just to highlight kind of what we called out in our statement of public benefit, similar to what you just said, Terry, like we made the commitment upon converting to a PBC that Cariloop would donate a portion of our finances, our services, and our time back into our communities. And I think the verbatim statement is in an effort to make a material positive impact on society. So every year, as part of our budgeting process, we budget for 1% of our revenues to be donated to nonprofit organizations that are supportive of caregivers, parents, families, lots of different disease types of organizations, the American Cancer Society, the Alzheimer's Association, organizations like this. Because we operate as primarily a B2B employee benefit company, we do have a B2C or retail offering that people can buy on their own. But the price of that can be a bit out of reach for certain families, especially if they're going through some tough times. So we donate a lot of free service to underprivileged, underserved folks in communities that really need help, that don't have access to Cariloop through their employer. And then we donate 1% of, or at least we allot for it, 1% of all Cariloop employees' time for each of them to be able to go volunteer in their community. So if you assume every person works 2,080 hours a year, that'd be 21 hours. So we give everybody 21 hours of paid time to go into your community and go donate your time, go support an organization. So for me, here in Dallas, I volunteer every other Sunday at Children's Health here in Dallas. I'm a patient pal. Go and sit with kids and play games and hold babies if they're by themselves and help out the staff. And we track these. Like I have a dashboard right now behind all of you that I can see in real time how much money we've donated, how many cases we've donated, and how many hours we've volunteered in our communities.
Wow, that is powerful. Before we shift over to getting certified as a B Corp, does anyone have any questions on the PBC legal structure for Michael before we shift over?
I do. I'm curious about something. I have been curious about this for a while around the Delaware location, local statutes in Texas, and what the impact is on the exit structure in terms of why B Corp is so important. Should you grow to the point where you're ready to sell, what really is the benefit of being or the need to be in Delaware? If you could speak to that.
From a legal and tax perspective, I would say that Delaware is one of the most business-friendly states to incorporate your business in. So just to be clear, even as a PBC, you're still treated legally as a C Corp, and you're still treated from a tax perspective as a C Corp. So parlaying that, Lori, now in your question, upon an exit, it shouldn't create any headwind for a buyer or a seller in the transaction. Being a PBC, it's not treated any differently than a C Corp. And actually, when we raised our Series B round 2 years ago, I had to actually double check with each of our investors that they didn't have any issues within their LP pool, like that this wasn't going to cause any problems, just to verify exactly what you just asked. And I think I only had one group that really called out that they weren't able to invest LP capital into a PBC. But otherwise, for the most part, it was actually really intriguing to most of them, and it was celebrated. I ended up picking, actually, we can get into this as well as far as operationalizing. I ended up picking a Series B lead investor that had a history of investing in PBCs and B Corps. Like, this was important to me. It was important to us. So I think it's actually a better guide for you strategically on who you work with and who you potentially sell your business to. A lot more so a tailwind than a headwind, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Yeah, I second that. Any other questions for Michael?
And by the way, Laura, if you were to choose to incorporate, like in Texas, there's plenty of business-friendly states out there. I mean, Delaware just about every law firm across the country, like they were raised on Delaware law. So just to point that out to everybody, I'm not sure if we have any lawyers on the line, but it's just a really common framework for businesses. But there's nothing wrong, I don't want to send that message, with incorporating here in Texas or any other state. Like,
for some reason, there's something in there about in the exit and the sale, that it preserves the values of the company despite its growth.
There's a lot of truth to that. We could probably spend a half hour just on sort of the strategy of forming and exiting your organization and some of the basic bells and whistles to set up. But being incorporated in Delaware and whatever structure you choose, there's a lot of pros. I'll say that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I second that. Let's shift over to the second topic and really what today's webinar is focused on, and that's B Corp certification. I'm going to put in the chat an organization that we're a member of called Be Local Texas. And the B Corp movement is, I think, one of the best things that has happened to our world, certainly to our country, because it really starts to put teeth in a lot of the values, and companies are scored and evaluated based on key principles of stakeholder capitalism. And then the Be Local movements they're around the globe, but they're designed to really grow the movement, which is obviously one of the reasons why we're partnered with them and a member of their organization. So we're a big proponent here at Schiffco, and I know Michael is as well as introducing more companies to B Lab and to getting certified. So Michael, can you talk a little bit about why you decided to certify? You already have the legal structure. You knew how those went together, and you also knew the difference. It's a lot of work to certify. It takes a long time. It's a lot of time, money, energy that goes into it. Why did you decide to certify? And then we'll talk a little bit about why this movement, I think, is important in Texas. So take it away, Michael.
If I could immediately kick off with an analogy here, I would tell you that converting to a PVC would have been like completely pulling out all of the plumbing and foundation of Cariloop and putting new in, like making sure it's really sturdy and solid. While that's really great for you, the homeowner, and you hope you can tout that one day when you sell the whole thing, Lori, back to your last question, nobody sees it. It's under the ground. Being a B Corp has become like really a stamp of approval globally for a business, a company, a platform that really represents using the business as a force for good. And the brand of like having that certified B stamped to your organization, more and more people are associating it with other brands that they know are doing incredible things. So there's this really incredible coalition of organizations that you're joining. I don't know about each of you, but I could probably rattle off a dozen favorite brands that are certified B Corps. Like I only wear Bombas socks. Like I can't even buy any other socks anymore. I'm a customer of Lemonade, like Patagonia. Of course, you can go there. Allbirds. My wife loves Athleta. Like just these are the brands that like they're taking the same principles that we were already espousing to pursue with PVC, and really like this is probably the best word I can think of in the moment, like flaunting it, like really showing what they're doing with it. Like that's why it was important for us to go and spend the 18 to 36 months going down this path. Is we want to join a group of organizations that really is eager to be vocal about this, like and use our businesses, our platforms collectively, like to really drive some impact in this world. It's incredible to see how many organizations too that are certified B Corps want to band together and help each other and buy from each other and like support each other with growing their businesses. So it's just been this wonderful fraternity of organizations that we've been lucky to be a part of the last 12 months. We couldn't wait to join. And in fact, like it was one of these, like every month when we were going through, we were checking with B Lab, like, are we coming up? Are we coming? Because we were just so eager to join this group and tell the story and really wave the flag for stakeholder capitalism. So there's a number of other reasons why we did this, but that's the first one that comes to mind. Is the certified B was not just the plumbing, it was the beautiful new landscape, the fence, the the paint, the carpet, it was all the stuff you could see that really makes it exciting. The PVC was the plumbing and the foundation work. But together now, I think we've built a pretty beautiful house. And then, Terry, we talked about this as well. B Lab is becoming more and more interested in companies that are going to be prioritizing their environmental work. And we've been following this story for a bit as well. So I can drop this in the chat, but Cariloop also just became climate neutral certified. So really cool process to have gone through to learn, thank you, Kim, to learn kind of what our carbon output and footprint is and be able to invest in projects that offset that. And that will become, I think, more and more an important element of your B Corp cert and your reassessment every 3 years. So yeah, just these are things that just they're so important to me, my co-founder, the team, but I know these are important things to our stakeholders as well, as evidenced by the growth. Like they believe in this and they want to support this. So yeah, this was a no-brainer for us that we have to do this.
I love it. And before we talk about the next topic, which is stakeholder capitalism and both how it's different and the same, I believe there's only 40 Texas companies, it's under 40 Texas companies that are certified. I know there's a lot more that are in the process of certifying. But why is it important to you? I mean, that's where we bonded right away is, you know, my mission is I know that there's millions more in Texas and coast to coast companies that are living stakeholder capitalism values. They don't even know these movements exist. So why was it so important for you to be a spokesperson, to be out there talking about this model in the state of Texas?
Without getting overly political, I think that especially the last 12 months, the entire ESG movement has taken a lot of flack out there from different governments, different financial institutions, just different communities. It's certainly been a movement that has tended to be a little bit more receptive or received better on, like, you know, the blue side versus the red side. Being here in Texas, where you've got predominantly, you know, Republican leadership, it was important for us to be able to, back to what I said a second ago, really be able to represent like the belief that we have in this, that this isn't about red or blue. This is about just good business and taking good care of people, which is what Cariloop is all about. Like there's no discriminating against caregivers or parents, like red or blue or anything in between. So we didn't approach the B Corp exercise, Terry, because there was so few few companies in Texas. Like that's not why we did it, but afterwards to learn that it was only that many, it really was an opportunity we felt like to support others that we know want to join and want to be part of it, and invite others to join the movement with us. So hopefully that's helpful. It was again, it wasn't never meant to be overly political. It just turns out when you start to look at it, you're like, that's it, 40 versus California or versus Washington or versus Vermont or New York. Like,
yeah,
there's a lot of incredible businesses here that are already acting this way, already operating as a PVC or certified B Corp. So let's lead in this regard, and let's hopefully inspire a few more of them to follow along.
I love that. And it's a perfect segue to the concept of stakeholder capitalism, which is really what B Lab is. And there's a lot of overlap between contest capitalism and stakeholder capitalism. But what to you, what does stakeholder capitalism mean? And then why does it matter?
So just a quick poll of the audience. Like when I say the name Milton Friedman and shareholder capitalism, like, does this ring bells with anybody? I mean, and it's okay. I mean, anybody have no idea who Milton Friedman is or what it means to follow a shareholder capitalistic process? Anybody have never heard of this? Yeah, like, okay, so I'm going to drop an article in. I went looking for this article because I remember sharing this with someone last year. So shareholder capitalism actually was pioneered back in the 70s when an economist named Milton Friedman came out and basically asserted that the role of a business is to maximize shareholder value for its owners. That is the only purpose of a business. Ironically, leading up to this, we here in the United States, we actually followed a stakeholder capitalistic type of approach to the way that we built business and the way that we constructed enterprise and thought about growth in this country. It wasn't until the 70s that we started thinking a little bit more like this. And you saw the impact on leaders, like think of a guy like a Jack Welch from GE, like he believed in this, right? This is how he ran GE. Your shareholders are one stakeholder in all the different stakeholder groups that a business has to think about. And I remember a couple of years ago when I went to my first Conscious Capitalism CEO Summit, and we were talking about kind of the power that people have in a democracy and how we talk about, like, you know, you going out and voting. You only vote every 2 to 4 years, but you vote every day with your dollars. Like, so each of us make conscious decisions to vote for the companies that we believe in and want to support and work with and consume from based on the things that they're doing. We use our dollars to do that. It's not just about returning capital to your investors. It's about being a brand that actually takes great care and considers all the different stakeholder groups that are involved. Your employees, your communities, your partners, your customers. In our case, our members, we're B2B2C, the planet, the environment. Like, your shareholders are one of those, and you certainly want to build a business that creates shareholder return, but it's not just about that group. So just to identify Cariloop stakeholders for you guys, I'll drop one more thing in the chat. Like, every year, as part of being a PBC and certified B Corp, we publish our annual impact report. And across the top, you can see how we think about the impact we produce for each of our stakeholder groups. And as part of being a PBC, you're supposed to provide something like this. Actually, it's required. I think it's every 2 years to your stakeholders. We go to do it every 1 year. So we just put our last report out here in, I want to say it was spring of this year for 2022. So anyway, I mean, stakeholder capitalism is all about thinking about the various stakeholders that are impacted by your business and making sure that when you make decisions as a company, as a board, as an organization, that you're considering each of these groups and you're being mindful of the impacts that your decisions have on them.
And so let's talk about that for just a second. If you think about it, my first entrepreneurial mentor was my grandfather, and he started his business to certainly pay his bills, but because he wanted to support his community. And, you know, when you think about really the genesis of business, it was to take care of your family, to take care of your community and to serve your community in some meaningful way, to provide value in some meaningful way. And that really went off the rails with the movement to shareholder capitalism as a core principle, that is the stated purpose of every company. It really took us off track. I think it was the genesis of taking us off track and taking our focus off of the things that matter. So why does it matter? And I know the answer to this, so I'm going to kind of set you up a little bit, but why does it matter to not think about it as a strategy, but to really think about it as who you are, from the top of the organization down, from the bottom of the organization up, from every fiber of your organization? Why does it matter to just be and to just value that rather than to think about it as a particular strategy?
I'll start with the most obvious point that I think you would probably, maybe this is what you're thinking, and I'm sure you jump up and down and agree. Like, statistically speaking, companies that are more mindful of their shareholders and, or excuse me, stakeholders in making decisions versus just shareholders have actually outperformed like the S&P 500 consistently year over year. Like, this is, again, not just, this is not, this is a growth strategy. This is a growth methodology. Like, this is not just all warm and fuzzies. So let me start by saying that, like, again, it just makes good sense. Like, the data doesn't lie. Companies that operate this way or endeavor to operate this way as best they can. It's difficult, guys. I mean, for those of you who are PVCs or B Corps, you understand this. It is not easy balancing the needs of all stakeholders when you make a decision. Sometimes you make a decision that's going to adversely impact one over the other, but you have to run a business still. Like, again, this is a for-profit strategy and structure. So starting with that, Terry, and I'm guessing we could probably drill into this some more, and I'd love to hear what you think about it. But like, that's just the truth. That's a fact. Like that, this is a system that anybody should be considering employing, because not only is it good for all of your stakeholders, but it actually net yields a better growth result and a better financial result anyway. So
it does in both growth on the top line, but also the bottom line, because typically employee retention is better. Customer retention is better. And although you are at odds, and I mentioned that when I talked about our PBC structure, we were at odds with some of the things that we wanted to do for our shareholders, with the fact that we needed to invest in things that helped our members grow. But it was an easy decision when your values are codified in your Form 8, your legal documents. It was an easy decision to say, you know what? Member success trumps everything, and that's really what we're going to focus on, and we're going to forego some of these other investments and dividends in order to help our members get further. And so I do think it's both growth, top line and bottom line. But the other thing that I think you embody, and it's one of the reasons why I admire you so much, is your whole organization just operates this way. That it's not a stamp that, you know, we check that box. I mean, you literally make decisions across the board, up, down, and across the organization from the values that you've imbued in the company. So talk a little more about that, and particularly the story of what you were doing on Monday, and why that matters.
yeah, so it would have been really easy years and years ago to just say all these things I'm saying to you right now, and it just be words and lip service. It was like, how do we really make sure that this is woven into the fabric of Cariloop, and that everybody feels this from the first moment they interact with us, and that it's consistently showing up every single day. So I could, again, spend a lot of time going through all the different things that we've done to operationalize this. But one of the most important things, and the thing that I would say I'm probably the most proud of, is how we took Cariloop's 4 core values of service, empathy, innovation, and integrity, and used them to construct the organizational hierarchy of Cariloop, like quite literally our org chart. We took the 4 core values and interwove the functional areas through them, so that quite literally, if you were to look at our organizational structure, the company cannot run without the values. Like, we literally like married these two concepts together. So we call it our VCO model, our value-centric organizational model. And instead of it being your traditional top-down hierarchy like you're used to seeing, where you've got C-levels, mid-management, and all the functional areas, ours is actually a sphere. And you can look at it 2-dimensionally or 3-dimensionally. 2-dimensionally, if you look at it, the mission and the vision of the organization, like, this is my role to embody these and to keep us pointed towards it. And kind of my bubble is orbited by the 4 values, which represent then kind of the 4 core functional areas of the business. So care, product, growth, and our business organization. And then the functions are woven through those. So for care, it's our coaching. For product, it's engineering, development, design, product management. For growth, it's sales, marketing, customer success. For business, it's people, finance, accounting, systems and compliance. Like, so we took the values, and it's all kind of woven together really beautifully. And so again, like, when you teach Cariloop to someone and you show them this, you teach them the mission, the vision, the values, and you should actually show them this is how we work. It's an interdependent model. It's all woven together. You can't have silos in an organization like this. It has to work together. You have to have all the values like rowing the boat together in lockstep. We cascade our annual objectives from it. We call them our VBOs, our value-based objectives, which tie into our VCO model. Like, so it's all rooted in the values. So Terry is referencing this concept from this week, like, in operationalizing all of this, on day 1 of orientation for any new looper, as we refer to them as at our company, any new employee, the day 1, session 1 of orientation, I teach. It's 2.5 hours. I spend the first 2.5 hours with everybody that walks through the door to teach them about our why, our mission, our vision, our values, our work as a PBC and a B Corp, the fact that we're now climate neutral certified. And we actually have an entire hour-long conversation then about all of our personal core values. And we really teach how important values are in any business and in any organizational setting. So I just did this on Monday for 3 new people joining the team. And I'm joined in all of this we have a dedicated impact manager on our team who oversees all of these initiatives for PBC, B Corp, climate neutral, and all things DE&I and culture. So she joins me for this session. And so rather than it being, your first day of work at your new job at Cariloop is all about like your job, your team. It's like, no, we're going to teach you kind of what makes this place so great and how you can really be successful in the job that you're going to be doing. So hopefully that answers the question, Terry. Sorry for being long-winded.
You nailed it. And one other thing, and then we'll take a couple of questions before we wrap up, but how do you operationalize this with customers? You talked a lot about your team, and I love the structure and the integration of values. I love that. You should be teaching a course on that. But how do you operationalize this with customers, and do you find that it matters to customers?
I wish it mattered more, but I think we're working on it. Like we're introducing this to a lot of them. Many of them have never heard of these concepts before. So if I was on a meeting with a prospective customer introducing Cariloop for the first time, this is one of the first slides they see is kind of who Cariloop is, that we're a PBC and a B Corp. And we actually show all of the nonprofit logos that we have had the opportunity to support over our history. It's a really beautiful slide of just all these tapestries of logos. And if you were to drill into that, a couple of things that we do every year is we've set aside, as part of that 1% of revenue, we set aside dollars that we actually turn to our loopers, and we give each of them $100, and we say, choose a nonprofit, and we will donate $100 to that nonprofit on your behalf. So we're a team of 120 now. So that's a lot of donations to a lot of different organizations that our loopers have had the chance to voice that this is important to them in their community. And we do the same with customers, Terry. We turn to our customers and say, like, pick a nonprofit that you already support or one that you wish you supported more, and we will donate a portion of the revenue from you to them. So we tell this story to every prospect, to every customer and partner, to every new looper coming aboard. So this gets them all leaning in on it, and they love it. This is a great way to introduce the concept. Oh my gosh, you're going to donate to this nonprofit on our behalf? Yeah, absolutely. And here's all the other ones we're doing too.
I love that. And I would imagine when you're doing your either quarterly business reviews or annual business reviews with your customers, you could bring that full circle. Yeah, hey, why you marked us great on these things? It's because of, these values and how we operate. Anybody have a question for Michael before we wrap up? I've got a few closing comments. I'm sure Michael does as well, but any questions for Michael before we do that?
I'm clearly not that passionate about this topic.
So I'm just wondering, for a new business and I have a new LLC, what would be my very first step on the B Corp journey?
Go to B Lab's website and do that self-assessment, Kim. It's all self-service. You can walk through every step, every one of the modules and all 6 of the areas, and you can see what you'd score. It helps you even identify the areas that you're already excelling in and the areas that, in order to get the certification, you're going to have to beef up some of these parts. I'd say that's step 1. That'd be my thought. Terry, what do you think?
Yeah, same thing. That's what we did. And I dropped the link in for you.
Oh, thank you.
What I love about the B Impact Assessment is it gives you a starting point. So we knew when we filled that out what our gaps were and where we were going to need to shore things up. And we were fortunate because we did that from the get-go, and I think you are too. And typically it's not advised to start the certification until after a year of operation. So we use that as a gap assessment in our first year of operations to really figure out where we were falling short and what we needed to tie up.
Fantastic. And is that at B Local or B Corp?
This is at B Corp. So B Local is like kind of the networking, community building aspect. But the link that I just dropped it into, I'll drop it into the full chat there.
Okay.
Sorry about that. There's the link to get started with it.
Thanks, Terry. Thank you, Michael.
Other questions for Michael?
Hopefully we're gonna have lots of B Corps after this. That's the goal.
I hope so. That's the plan.
I just wanted to thank Michael. It's really, I can really resonate the path with you because we did the same during the pandemic. You know, I knew I was going to be a B Corp from the day I started in 2017 when I was at SOCAP in San Francisco. And I'm like, I wasn't, you know, just had started a month earlier to what you're sharing, Kim, and all that. So, but I knew I was going to do it. And then once the pandemic hit, we started as a public benefit company out of Oregon initially, but then I did move to Delaware. And some of the suggestions that you had shared with everybody. But if anything, I want to advise is before you become a public benefit company and your commitment to your shareholders and stakeholders at B Corp, I had to revise my articles agreement and something a couple of times, and that was expensive. So if you're going to do both, I would encourage do them both together and don't do one without the other because you'll have to pay more. I revised it, and then they came back and through my audits, you know, that's a multiple step process. They were like, no, you need to change it again. And every time I had to go back to Delaware to change that thing, it was just like another $450 or $500. I was like, my gosh. So that would be, but Michael, I just really want to honor you for what you've done. And I really highly encourage everybody. I'm very involved in B Local Texas. I'm in We the Change as women businesses here. There's a B Corp initiative called We the Change that we've all signed an agreement. There's a great group of women supporting women B Corps. So highly recommend the B Corp movement and public benefit companies. So just want to be a champion and cheerleader for that as well. And when I started, it was 6 in Texas. We were the first in Denton. So I was like, so glad that I'm hearing 40 now, you know, because that's a pretty big jump. I was certified in December 2021, but we started the process in the end of 2020.
It's progress, you know, but yeah, I think I saw you nodding along as I was saying what I was saying. Like we got a lot of work to do in the state of Texas.
A lot of work to do in Texas, for sure.
Yes.
We'll get there.
We've got time for one more question for Michael. Any takers on that?
It's all been helpful.
Yes.
That's the goal.
Well, Michael, thank you so much. I look forward to folks listening in after, whether they registered ahead of time or they find this after. You know, this is really something to consider. And if you're just getting started, start from the beginning with a core set of values and then imbue those values into your organizational documents and do that impact assessment so that from the beginning, you're really thinking about how you'll fulfill the mission and the impact of your business in addition to growing your business. Also want to encourage that if you want to make a bigger impact, focus on growing your business. And if you can grow impact in the business together, that to me is nirvana. Third is for those of you that are listening in, which is the market that I'm wanting to talk to right now, where you're already doing these things. You just didn't know that this movement existed. Would encourage you to check out Conscious Capitalism. They have chapters all over the world. I would encourage you to check out We the Change. As Cindy mentioned, I'm a member of that. Also the B Local groups, they have them all over. Shifco has hubs. I think we have 7 or 8 hubs around the US and hopefully one in London pretty soon. Get involved in the community and network with others that are doing this. And Michael, closing thoughts both on the connection aspect for those of us that are on this journey, or anything else related to that be curious aspect that we opened with.
I think the first step, I'll go back to even, you know, Kim, your question is just get started. Like, you know, you don't have to wait to start using a stakeholder capitalism mentality, and really learning more about this and applying it to your business, your team, your organization as a whole. You've got a tremendous group here that's super supportive and can help you just even think about those first couple of steps. It might seem scary and daunting at first. It'll be probably a little bit of a struggle if you're, if you're just getting started with it and you're kind of, thinking of all these different things. Like, it's okay. Like we're all doing it. So I'd say just start, and then can't encourage each of you, enough and really any more than we already have to really seriously consider the PPC and B Corp pathways. Like, it's an incredible coalition of companies all over the world that are part of this movement, and just really honored that we get to play a small role in all of it. I think the number is now like 5,500 or 6,000 B Corps globally, like out of the millions and millions and millions and millions of businesses. Like, it's pretty amazing. So I'm here to be a support, a guide. I'm here to help any way I can. So please reach out, connect on LinkedIn, shoot me an email, whatever you need, and I'm there for you.
And he means it. He's an unbelievably generous of his time and his wisdom. And Michael, you guys really have something amazing going on. And I know that the impact really drives you. But I just want you to know, I think your company is one of the best companies I've ever come across, and the work that you do, as well as how you do it. There's nothing like it in the world. So thank you so much for being on here at this virtual showcase, and just being somebody that those of us that are trying to take that next step can really try to be like and emulate. So we'll tell you guys more about some of our events that are coming up, but we're going to have a series of events partnering with Be Local Texas, Conscious Capitalism, Conscious Leaders, now WPO, and others. We're going to be talking about Stakeholder Capitalism, B Corp Certification, Climate Solutions, Business Growth. If you registered for this event, we'll tell you more about those. We're also going to have a similar series in New York, which is our second largest hub. So I look forward to seeing everybody there. And again, thanks for all of you attending today. And Michael, thank you so much for giving so freely of your time and your wisdom.
Absolute pleasure, guys. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks, everybody.
Oh, thanks,
Bye.
Terry.